Elevate your virtual meeting game. Go from dull to dynamic. If you're new to the channel, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, listen, that just simply means Ed. I have an 8.8 point framework in which I plan, my goal, my mission is to unpack today's title, which is entitled How to Run a Virtual Meeting. Best virtual meeting tips. Again, how to run a virtual meeting, best virtual meeting tips. You know, one of the things, family, when I look at when you run virtual meetings, there are some aspects that I've heard addressed, but there's also some things that we really need to take account for because you can imagine when you're in a virtual meeting, there's a lot of distractions. There are a lot of things that can get in the way of you really having a fulfilled meeting when it comes to your project management meetings. So I'm going to unpack these eight, and I hope that they really work for you as they've worked for me. All right, point number one, set a clear objective and agenda. Listen, a well-defined agenda with people that are going to be speaking to each one of those agendas. Now, if you're going to be the individual that will be speaking for each one of the agenda topics, then that's fine. You won't have to, of course, put anyone. But if you have various people coming in and out, my recommendation, my thought behind it is putting the person that's going to be speaking with the time that's allowed it. So, if, for instance, here's an example. You know, I always like to make it actionable. For instance, let's say I'm speaking at your meeting. My time frame for that is boxed in at 15 minutes. Then at that 15-minute mark, I should be getting the wrap up sound, like the Grammy wrap up sound, or is it the Oscar wrap? I think it's the Oscar wrap up sound. When that music starts playing, well, that's what we have to do, family. We have to run a very concise meeting because, again, you don't know if someone else has another meeting up against this, or even you, as the project manager, if you may have another project management meeting that's right up next. Again, family, I want to let you guys know. Again, the Magnetic Project Management School is on its way. We are still on schedule for March 9th, which will be this Saturday, which I'm super excited for. So you'll start seeing more content getting put there. As well, we're still going to keep delivering value here, but that over there is going to be more. We're going to go more in depth. There's going to be more like tutorials where I'm going to go in depth about project management, helping you, like, for example, what are the 49 process, unpacking that particular thing of the 49 process, as using that as an example, is going to be key and huge for you on your project management journey if you're taking the CAPM or the PMP exam. Point number two, really, establishing meeting ground rules. Now, one of the things when you're leading virtual meetings, you need to establish some ground rules. If it was me leading that meeting, what I would recommend is that once we identify, so let's look at the agenda topic. If the agenda topic is, let's have a project kickoff meeting. One of the things I would do, that would be the first thing that I talk about is the ground rules. Why? Well, because a lot of times what will happen, especially in a virtual meeting, you will have people having additional conversation on the side. Some of us, we call it chit chat, meaning that they will just have all of these conversations and you're like, that has nothing to do with what we're here for, which is no problem with that. But let's keep the main thing the main thing. We're here for a project kickoff, or we're here for this particular meeting, and we want to ensure that we can get the most value out of this meeting. So establish the importance of allowing people to talk is good, but only good in certain areas. I always share with you, there's a time and place for everything. Right now, this is not the time for you to do that. So here's some actionable steps. What I would do is I would literally I would type out these ground rules, and before we actually get started, I would say, hey team, do we all agree on ground rule number one? We won't have any extracurricular conversations that are going on. Put one in the chat if you agree, put two if you disagree. So whoever disagrees, then we know of, we probably might need to get them out of this particular meeting and talk to them on the side. But that's just a key technique that I've used before, of using ones or twos, or using like or dislike, just because what we want to do, again, we're also creating an interaction with our stakeholders, as well as we're establishing ground rules. Here's some actionable steps, because again, I want to ensure it's actionable. One of the ground rules that I would recommend, I said rules, ground rules that I would recommend is say, hey, Put all your questions in chat, especially if I'm doing a kickoff meeting, a project kickoff meeting. I want all the questions put in chat. Also, one of the things I would recommend is wait for your turn to speak during the Q&A portion. What will tend to happen is a lot of times people will get excited. I'm using that politically, but sometimes they won't get excited. They literally just cut you off and you're talking or you're trying to explain yourself. So you want to ensure that we have a presence of appreciation when someone is speaking. So if someone is speaking, a stakeholder is speaking, and someone goes to get ready to cut them off, you got to be fast on that mute button and mute them really quick. And if it's a game of you and them going back and forth on mute, that's just part of the play. Unfortunately, if they can't adhere to the ground rules, or just kick them out the meeting, and you deal with that afterwards. And if they ask, well, why did you kick me out the meeting? I was trying to give a point. Well, we agreed at the beginning of this meeting that we were going to allow each other to finish the thought, and then we would open the floor up for questions, but we were going to be respectful. We're all professionals here, that we should be able to have a great, intelligent conversation about whatever that is. Most of the time, again, we're on project kickoffs or just your weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, however you have those established. Point number 3, incorporate icebreakers. Now, when I say incorporate icebreakers, I did a video about certain icebreakers that you can leverage. But when you are doing, let's say if it's a meeting that you have on a regular basis, meaning let's say it's your weekly check-in or status meeting, one of the things I would recommend as a fun icebreaker meeting is just a questions, like simply just trying to warm up the group, trying to get that intensity, like, hey, we're here. I know you probably don't want to be here. You're thinking of all the things that you could probably be doing, but hey, I need your attention here for the moment. So one of the things is asking questions and or doing a poll. That's my favorite. Everyone wants to prove how smart they is. I don't know, maybe not everybody, but sometimes doing a poll is important. Leveraging the poll features on the different platforms like a Zoom or Teams. I do believe Teams has it as well. Doing polls really gets the thinking going in the direction of what is going to actually happen. One of the things too I like to do it. It depends on the size of the group. This is subjective based on the size of the group. If you want me to go more in detail about that, leave me a comment and I'll unpack that. But again, depending on the size of the group, if it's more than, I'll say, 10 people in that group, I probably wouldn't do what I'm about to recommend next, which is two truths and a lie. And reason why I say more than 10, because this can go on for a long time. And if you're at the capacity of 10, I may do this ahead of time. I may reach out to the stakeholders individually and say, hey, give me two truths and a lie, give me two truths and one lie about you. And then I will present those and say, who do you guys think this is? And we'll take that particular route. So let's move on to point number 4. Point number 4, encourage. You see how I'm doing this? Encourage active participation. Listen, family, you really want to encourage that your team gets an opportunity, especially for my introverts out there that really gets really quiet, and then they'll pull you aside and they're dropping all of these amazing gems and gold, and you're like, why you didn't say that during the meeting? So you really have to be a really amazing facilitator when it comes to leading projects and engaging your team. Start calling their names. Anybody, when you hear their name call, you're at attention. I mean, you could be doing something over here, and you hear your name, you just, I don't know why I just did that. Like I'm breakdancing, on you. Anyway, I digress. But no, another thing you could do as an actionable step, use a round robin to really, and that catches people off guard too, round robin, and call on your participants directly for their insight. Hey, John, what did you think about what we just talked about here? Now, this does two things for you. First of all, it lets John know you care about his thoughts or opinions. And number 2, you can see if they're paying attention to the meeting. You're welcome. Let's move on to point number 5. Point number 5, provide accessibility options. What does that even mean? Listen, family, one of the things I'm noticing more and more is being able to provide accessibility. Like, for instance, regardless of the disability, it really creates a more inclusive type experience where you're able to offer captions or the screen sharing ability, asking participants about any specific needs. And this is, you'll be able to develop that more and more as far as you're engaging with your stakeholders to understand their particular needs. Sometimes I'll use a tool like SurveyMonkey to actually say, is there any particular needs that we need to be cognizant of as we're navigating through this project. I want to ensure you're getting the best value out of it, as long as and as well as I'm delivering the best value. Point number 6, optimizing for time zones. We're a global economy now, so we have to be ensured that we're optimizing our meetings that's going to fit the stakeholders that are part of our project. So there's no need for you to have an afternoon meeting. Let's say, I don't know, let's say 2 p.m. Eastern, or 4 p.m. Let's use 4 p.m. Eastern, when you're working with a team out in London, or you're working with a team that may be on a different time zone, just in general. So you want to be cognizant of that, of your team's uh, resource availability when it comes to setting up and scheduling meetings, because you want to ensure that the right people are there, the right stakeholders are there, especially when it comes to making decisions. Because what it end up happening is then now you're going to have to set up another meeting probably that next day, which is going to take away from the value and the continuity of the actual engagement that you particularly could have. Point number 7. This is my favorite. Breakout rooms. Oh, I love doing this breakout rooms. The reason why I love breakout rooms, family, is because breakout rooms allow your stakeholders to facilitate amongst themselves, and it really goes for it. It takes, like, you have a topic, it allows you to go deeper on the topic. And then here's an actionable step for you, because I don't want to leave you out. Plan segments of your meeting for breakout sessions. And when you do that, you're going to have to do something just like we talked about creating ground rules. You want to ensure you provide clear instructions. And here's another one. I wasn't even going to say this, but I really think it's going to be imperative if you decide to do breakout rooms. You need to make sure you're visiting those breakout rooms. I've seen this a lot of times where I will see a project manager do breakout rooms and they would never go visit them. And I'm sitting there like, you need to be visiting and ensure that the team is keeping the main thing, as far as based on the clear roadmap that you gave them. And that once they're done, that if they're done, then allow them, if they want to have at that point chit chat or have that type of conversation, they can. And it also really creates more of a networking and getting to know people a little bit better. Point number 8, ensure digital security. Listen, for your meetings, you want to have passwords aligned with them, because I've noticed in the past, I'm going to call myself out, where I didn't have passwords or have a enablement where there was a waiting room. What tends to happen, you'll just see people pop in and you're like, who is this? And they're like, oh, well, they're part of such and such group. Well, we're not talking with such and such group. We're talking with this group here. We have a strategy to meet with that group, and we don't want the communication to be crossed in what we're trying to deliver to this particular group. So by protecting and creating confidential, because there may be things that are said that is not supposed to be heard by the other group. You are, again, project manager, you are the leader of that team, and you want to ensure that there is a safe place for people to have this conversation. And sometimes you don't need other people joining in that are not supposed to be prevalent to this conversation. Because a lot of times, I've been guilty of it as well, where you afford a meeting on and thinking that person needs to be there, and they don't. All right, family, I do have 2 bonuses for you. The first bonus is another one that I left off on purpose, because I wanted to talk about it in my bonus, is using collaboration tools. Tools like Google Docs or Zoom, they have a lot of good I said Google Docs, Miro. I love that little whiteboard collaboration, but Zoom and Teams, they've come a long way. When I say a long way, especially Teams has that collaboration piece, and Zoom has always had it, and they took it up another notch as well. So I really appreciate what Zoom is doing there, but just really providing a more opportunity to integrate with collaboration tools. It makes people feel like they're part of the meeting, instead of this just showing up for an assignment and then they frustrated and not paying attention. My next bonus is, I know I might get a lot of kickback for this, but I'm used to it by now. Most people will say, put out meeting minutes. Okay, yeah, that's great. but when do you put them out? Do you put them right out after the meeting or the next day? For me, again, it's subjective. For me, I found it in my best interest to put them out the next day. Why? Here's my why for anybody that wants to disagree, and you're entitled to that. The reason why I put them out the next day is because you've slept. Mhm. That's it? No, okay, I'll give you more context. No, the reason why, family, I put it out the next day is because what it really truly does, it really shows that this meeting was valuable by saying that you just imagine you somebody that go to multiple meetings and you're getting all these multiple meeting recaps. Wouldn't it be better if you seen the meeting recap the next day versus because you're getting all of it? So again, the reason why I put mine out the next day because most people put them out the same day. So it's just gonna be another email in your inbox versus if it's the next day, you're like, oh man, you're right, we did talk about that versus oh yeah, okay, cool. So that's the reason why I do it. I want to make sure that I appreciate their value of them being there, but yet and still, I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to raise the bar and be exceptional. Here's some of my closing remarks, family. I only have three, as you know. First of all, ground rules, ground rules. Say it with me. Ground rules, ground, okay. No, ground rules. No, seriously, the reason why, family, we want to ensure stakeholders understand the importance of us having the ability to stay on topic. The way that I sell it to them is this: I want to get you in and out of this call and provide you with the most value there is. So when you come to my meeting, you know what to expect. Every time we get on a call, boom, we're going to go through each one of these topics and then we're going to get you off so you can do whatever you need to do. If we don't need the whole 30 minutes or the whole 60 minutes, I want to be able to make sure we get you in and out as soon as possible, but yet and still ensuring that you understand that your questions are answered and that there's value there. All you keep hearing me say is value. Point number two: breakout rooms. Again, I love breakout rooms because what it does, it disrupts our comfort zones. Now you're in a room with other stakeholders that maybe are on different teams, and it's forcing you to have conversations about driving that particular thing. That particular thing. And point number three, my last and favorite one of all, is setting a clear objective and agenda. Listen, we need to understand why they're here. Well, they need to understand, excuse me, why they're here and what points we plan on covering. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. I go by the name of AD. You know my slogan, you know my motto. I'm out.